At just 23, Ian Curtis ended his life. In that single night, one of Britain's most important bands vanished. Joy Division's dark, raw sound was untouchable. Their first major US tour was days away, but after that tragedy, what remained? Three traumatised musicians, Bernard Sumner, Peter Hook and Stephen Morris, and a pact that no matter what happened, they would carry on. A few unfinished songs, a silence that could have swallowed them whole, but that silence didn't last. From grief came movement, from absence came synthetic rhythm, from the ashes of Joy Division came New Order, a band that dared to replace despair with dance, creating a sound that would change music for decades. This is the story of how loss became innovation, how tragedy forced reinvention, how three broken musicians created the blueprint for modern electronic music. Because sometimes the most powerful art doesn't come from success, it comes from survival. Picture this: late 1970s Manchester. A city built on industry, now rotting in silence. Factories that once powered Britain were closing, streets were crumbling, the youth who grew up in their shadow were restless. Punk had exploded and burned out, leaving one unanswered question. What happens? What comes after the anger? And four young men emerged from that chaos. Bernard Sumner on guitar, Peter Hook on bass, Stephen Morris on drums, and Ian Curtis, a quiet, bookish civil servant who became their voice. They originally called themselves Warsaw and then changed it to Joy Division. The name itself, unsettling, provocative, taken from history's darkest corners, was a warning. This wasn't just another band. This was a statement. Where punk was sonic chaos, Joy Division enforced brutal discipline. They stripped everything to essentials: sparse, metallic guitar, mechanical, almost programmed drums, and cavernous, haunting space where real emotion could breathe. Ian Curtis wasn't a frontman, he was a mirror. His lyrics spoke of alienation, control, being trapped inside your own mind. Confusion in her eyes, that says it all. She's lost control. These weren't rock anthems, they were confessions set to rhythm. Then there was Peter Hook's bass, not buried under guitars, but pushed forward, melodic, propulsive, impossible to ignore. Hook's bass was the heartbeat, the melody, and the menace all at once. This was music that didn't just describe their world, it sounded like it. The cold echo of empty warehouses, the pulse of machines replacing men. Producer Martin Hannett captured it perfectly on Unknown Pleasures. Drums like distant machinery, guitars like ghost signals from another planet. When Unknown Pleasures dropped in 1979, it sounded like nothing else on earth. Detached, haunting, beautiful, a soundtrack to post-industrial despair and a strange kind of hope. You see, Joy Division sounded like the future, but it was a future built on ruins. As Joy Division rose, Ian Curtis began to fall. Fame came faster than what he could carry. His body betrayed him, with severe epilepsy diagnosed in January 1979. On stage, under strobe lights, he would collapse mid-performance. Some audiences thought it was performance art. It wasn't. It was physical agony. Off stage, he was drowning. A young father trapped between hospital visits, medication, and relentless touring pressure. The contradiction was impossible. The music that gave him creative freedom was destroying him behind the scenes. Joy Division was about to break America, something no post-punk band had done, but Ian's depression was deepening. His marriage was falling apart. The lyrics that once felt prophetic now read like cries for help. Where will it end? He had written. By 1980, that question had an answer. Their final show was chaotic, fragmented. Ian could barely hold himself together. They were days away from their first US tour, a dream finally within reach. Indeed, on the night before they were due to fly out, Ian Curtis was alone, and that's when he took his own life. One of the world's most promising bands gone overnight. In the silence that followed, there was only disbelief, and then only echoes. In the days after Ian's death, Joy Division ceased to exist. The three remaining men were suddenly without a roadmap, without an identity. Bernard Sumner later said, "We didn't want to play Joy Division songs anymore. It was too painful. We didn't want to replace Ian. We wanted to survive him." Survival began quietly, almost unexpectedly. When Gillian Gilbert joined, headlines called her the girlfriend joining the band. History would prove that wrong. Where Peter Hook's high-pitched bass once felt isolated, Gillian's synthesizers brought distance, colour, mechanical light. She wasn't filling a hole, she was pointing them towards the future. Her sound was almost prophetic. She gave them a new language, one Ian had never spoken, and maybe one he could never have. But the biggest void wasn't the songs, it was the voice. Bernard Sumner became the reluctant frontman. He didn't try to emulate Ian, he did the opposite. His voice was fragile, almost monotone. He looked uncomfortable. His lyrics often were mumbled or doubled, an awkward, almost anti-frontman performance. But it was honest, a new kind of authenticity born from refusing to pretend that things were okay. This wasn't reinvention, it was survival in motion, awkward, uncertain, but still moving forward. Maybe that's what the name New Order truly means. Not a dramatic rebirth, but a quiet, fragile decision to keep creating. Out of silence came synthetic rhythm. The survivors didn't look back. They looked forward to the pulse of the dance floor. They immersed themselves in Kraftwerk's rigid, clean sound. Machines offered what human pain couldn't. Impersonality. Drum machines couldn't die. Sequencers couldn't feel pain. For the first time since Ian's death, movement became medicine. Every beat was a heartbeat they could control again. Of course, this being factory records, nothing was simple. They needed something that worked, emotionally and commercially. The result? A magnificent 7-minute gamble, Blue Monday, which was released in 1983. It became the best-selling 12-inch single of all time, but due to its iconic, high-cost Peter Saville floppy disk sleeve, they famously lost money on every copy sold. Ironically, the song that almost bankrupted them saved their legacy. More than that, it bought them their freedom. If Joy Division was monochrome, New Order was the first defiant splash of colour. The darkness didn't disappear. It evolved into something that could move. The grief didn't vanish. It learned how to dance. In a way, Joy Division never truly vanished. Ian's darkness still lingers in the music, but now it exists not as a tragedy to be mourned, but as a pulse that refuses to stop beating. You can hear it under every synth line, every bass pulse, every moment of stillness between beats. Joy Division's silence became New Order's rhythm. And from that rhythm came a blueprint for resilience, for reinvention. Bands like Radiohead, Nine Inch Nails and Interpol each took a piece of that DNA, that history. They learned the beautiful contradiction of using mechanical rhythms to convey human darkness. The foundation of modern music was built on New Order's courageous survival. What began as tragedy became testimony. They did not exploit Ian's memory. They extended it, not by repeating his pain, but by creating through it. And in that choice lies the real legacy. That art can turn the deepest loss into defiant movement, transforming unbearable silence into eternal rhythm. From despair came dance, from silence came rhythm. The emergence of New Order wasn't just a change in music. It was a profound testament to the human spirit, proof that even in our darkest, most broken moments, creation is still possible. Joy Division's memory will always be wrapped in tragedy, but New Order's legacy is resilience. They didn't try to glue broken pieces back together again. They built a beautiful, brand new machine out of what was left over. What is something in your life that ended, and what beautiful, defiant noise might be waiting to be reborn? If this story resonated with you, join the conversation below. This channel is about reinvention, about finding dignity and new noise in what comes after. Tell us your story, subscribe, and remember, even the quietest voices can start a new rhythm. I hope you enjoyed that delve into the history of Joy Division and New Order. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.